Hello, third grade. Here is day 2 of our Say Something self-portrait lesson. So hopefully we have finished our self-portrait. And remember, we're only focusing on our face and our shoulders. We're not doing our whole body. If you haven't colored it in, or you maybe need to add a few details, make sure you pause the video here and you finish this part of our lesson. You can't complete the lesson today if this part is not done. I use color pencils. Remember, guys, you can use any coloring supplies you have. When you're done coloring it, or you're already done, make sure you have the in-progress self-portrait close by. You also need scissors, a pencil, 2 pieces of colored paper. If you don't have colored paper, you can find a magazine. You can use a white piece of paper to color right on top of to create a colored paper. You only really need a half sheet like I have right here, and then 1 piece of white paper. This is going to be our word bubble that sits on the top of our self-portrait. Remember my teacher example? I got my self-portrait, and then I have my word bubble popping out from the top of my page, and I got 2 colors behind it. This is to show emphasis, because we're really talking about how important your voice is. You're going to be choosing the message you want up here. We'll talk more about that when we get there. But for right now, let's talk about how we make the word bubble. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clear everything off. Pause the video if you need to right now collect your supplies. Remember, that is 2 pieces of colored paper, whether you make some homemade colored paper or you have some laying around, a white piece of paper, pencil, and a pair of scissors, along with your in-progress self-portrait. Here is, let me start to move some things over. Here's an example of some word bubbles. When I say word bubble, I think of comics. If you ever read a comic, when the character starts to speak, or if they have something that they say really loudly, the word bubble surrounds it. That's what's coming out of the character's mouth, and it changes for what they're saying or what they're thinking. So I've got a classic word bubble. It's got a little tail coming out of it, usually pointing to the mouth of the self-portrait. I've got a kind of exclamation, like a really, almost like a yelling or really excited voice, zigzag word bubble. I have a thought word bubble. And then this one's just more of a rounded rectangle bubble. If you have a phone, sometimes you can see that this is more of the classic text message bubble, just if you would like to spice it up. You're going to choose one of these styles today, and I'm going to keep this up here for when we start to draw it. You're going to choose one of these with in mind what message you want to send. Let's take a quick look at that front page of Peter Reynolds' Say Something book. Remember last time when we looked at this part and we looked at all those different word bubbles and all those different messages that he was talking about? Let's pick one of them. The one that I pick, I'm going to do the Think Green. That one's all about recycling and thinking about being more conscious of our environment. Look at all these different options you have. Please, please think about what you're going to choose and how it's different than everyone else's. This should be unique to you. This should be a personal message that you want to send out. Don't take the one that I made. If you really like recycling, maybe you say something different along the lines of go recycle or clean up our oceans, something like that. Think about your unique message. All right, now that we're back here, our first job is to take a look at these. We're going to draw one of them on the top of our extra piece of paper. Now, if you would like to cut this in half, because we're only working with the top half of our paper, just like how last time we only worked with the bottom half of our paper for our self-portrait, we want to work with only the top half. So for this, I'm actually going to fold and I'm going to cut it in half so I remember that I got to keep my word bubble small. If it's huge, it might actually overlap onto the face of our self-portrait. We don't want that. We spent so much time on this already. What I like to do is I fold my paper and then I cut down the line just in half. If you know you can focus on drawing on only half the paper, you absolutely can do that. I want to make sure though, I'm only using half the sheet. So now I have my half sheet of paper. Here we go. And I want to choose one of these word bubbles. I'm really liking how really excited and enthusiastic this one is. So let me kind of move that, push this on over here. Guys, I'm going to use a marker to draw my word bubble. You guys, please use pencil because pencil erases, but the camera doesn't like too much when I use pencil. So for that word bubble, I really want to draw a zigzag all the way around my paper. And I gotta remember that little tail, I call it, kind of looks like a cat or a dog tail, because that's what's going to point at the mouth of my self-portrait. I just drew my zigzag all the way around in the shape of a circle so that my word or my message can live in the center of it. I'm just re-outlining these lines. There we go. And there we are. I have my word bubble, and this is going to go right on the top. Don't worry guys, it's going to hang off a little bit, but with glue we'll be able to make sure it sticks right there. Oh my goodness, I forgot to tell you guys that you do need glue for today. Sorry, how can we glue something down without glue? Make sure you guys also have your glue stick close by. Friends at home, if you don't have a glue stick, you can do a couple things. You can tape it, you can staple it. If you'd like to just have it sitting on the table after and not glue it at all, but take a picture of it sitting down so you can see how to be positioned, you can do that as well. Let's get back to the lesson. I'm going to move my sheet over here. Remember those two pieces of colored paper that we have? Either colored paper or a magazine page or a homemade colored paper. Make sure those are close by. That's our next step. We're gonna do what I like to call the sandwich cut, where we layer paper on top of each other and we cut, holding them tight like a sandwich almost, and we will cut through all the paper underneath as we go. If you would rather draw this 3 times on your paper, so you would draw it here, here, and here, and then cut them out separately, you can do that as well. But this, I think, is fast and really convenient. So what I'm going to do is I layer my colored paper underneath the word bubble I drew on my white paper. And this is what I'm going to cut. It's so important though that I can hold tight my colored paper. So what I'm going to do is the same thing I did with my white paper. I want to make sure that they're all small enough so that I can hold it like a sandwich. I'm going to move this off to the side. And as I'm holding it, I want to hold it tight with one hand and I hold my scissors with the other. And guys, go nice and slow for this. Especially if you're doing this type of word bubble, what I like to do is just cut little chunks of that triangle out by cutting 2 lines and having them meet in the corner, and then I just take out my scraps. It's important though that you're holding it all together as tight as you can. You're going nice and slow, because if you accidentally move, then the cut's also going to move. I will say, if you have a circle word bubble, then it's a little bit easier than this zigzag one. I got a curve so I can get that tail of the word bubble. I have to move my hand up a little bit so I'm still squeezing. Oops, sorry, I knocked my camera. It's okay if you get out of the lines as long as you are holding it nice and tight. So I'm going to actually snip this off so I can move my scraps off to the side. And holding it tight still, I can move my hand. So I'm holding it over here now, and I still want to go with my scissors. and snip. All right, so let me just scooch all these scraps off to the side. Don't forget to throw these away. Don't leave a mess for whoever is with you. Here's my word bubble. But what's pretty cool is when I take this one off the top, I have identical cut shapes underneath. My red, my blue one. What's going to be really cool is when we emphasize your word by lining up all of our colored word bubbles. Let's take a peek at the teacher example so you can see what I'm talking about. Here's the one I did more of a rectangle word bubble. See how I can see my yellow and my purple underneath that white word bubble? Same thing with this guy. I want to fan it out and space it so I can see my white one on the very top, the one all the way, while my blue is hidden and peeking out from underneath, and my red one is almost totally straight. It is the last one peeking out from the bottom. When I move it over to here, I can tell that some of it might actually touch the top of my head. So I want to turn it a little bit like that so that some of it's peeking off, and that's okay if it's kind of hanging off the side. I'm going to just adjust it a little bit. There we go. I like this. This one really makes it look like we are emphasizing what we're talking about. Like they're really trying to say something important because your voice matters. At this step, please pause the video, go get some glue because you might have not gotten it with your supplies to begin with. But grab a glue stick or a glue bottle or some staples or some tape. You guys, there's so many different options if you don't have a glue stick of how you can glue today. All right, so I have my glue stick. Remember to uncap your glue stick. Make sure you have some glue sticking out the top, almost like it's chapstick. You might need to either turn the bottom so you have more glue or less glue. I don't like to have a ton of glue sticking out because then it's easy for it to fall out completely. If I twist it so there's only a tiny bit left over, then that's kind of the perfect amount. This little tiny space. All right, so what we're going to do first is lift up all of our word bubbles and move them to the side except the bottom one. My bottom one, for me, is the red one. I need to flip it over and I draw a big glue circle on the inside. So I glue just a circle, and I also want to glue a little bit of the tail. I'm going to put one more or two stripes of glue in the center, but I'm not going to try to glue these little tiny triangles because that would get kind of crazy. And then I line it up and I paste it down. Remember, when you push it down, you want to kind of massage it. Mush, mush, and mush. This one isn't hanging off the side too much, so I don't have to worry about glue getting on this background or your table if you're working at a table. My next one, we're going to do the same thing, except this time I want you to glue right onto this word bubble. The reason I say that is because if we start to glue these ruffles, now this guy's going to be hanging off the side. If you glue right here, then you're going to glue it right onto your table. You don't want that. So all you need to do is, once again, draw a big circle like this. I do a couple of rounds of glue. Draw a circle in your word bubble and layer it on. Remember, we want this guy to be peeking out, so it's a little bit angled higher at the top of your paper. And I push and I kind of massage it down. Give yourself a check that you didn't accidentally glue it onto the table. Looking good. Last but not least, we've got the final word bubble going right on top. He's going to go right there. I'm again going to draw a circle with my glue, and I need to kind of twist the bottom more so I have more glue up here. Take a moment, make sure that if you run out of glue or you see that it's flat, that you screw the bottom a little bit so you have more popping out. I draw my circle for the last time, a couple times so it's nice and sticky. And I place my word bubble, once again, a little angled so it's still on top like that. And I massage it down. Awesome. Give it a check so there's nothing glued onto your table or wherever you're working. I can see my blues peeking out behind, red's peeking out behind the blue. Looking good. All right, so now I've got my self-portraits on one half, my word bubbles on the top half, and the last step for this project before we finish is to write our message. You guys can do any type of font or design of wording. If you want to do some bubble letters, if you want to do some block letters, if you want to do colored marker, you can kind of have fun with this. Think about your unique message. How would that look best written in your word bubble? I'm going to do the classic black marker, and I really want to put, maybe I'm going to have her say, think green and recycle. So I'm saying, I'm promoting how important it is that we need to recycle and we need to really think about our planet. So I'll put think green. All right, so I put think green and recycle. After you're done writing your message, and remember, these messages are yours to think of. Don't choose what I wrote. Think about what you want to tell the world. Remember, your voice matters. You're probably thinking about different things. Maybe it's about kindness. Maybe it's about being brave. Maybe you're thinking about your creativity and how the world maybe needs to be more colorful. Think about these messages and choose your own. When you're done with your project, I can't wait to see it on Schoology. Post it on the discussion board or bring it to our next meeting on Zoom. I can't wait to see these, and happy creating.